Hello, it is July 4th, 2025. Happy Independence Day if you're watching in the United States. This is another installment of $5 in the World. This is the book project I'm working on that encompasses my dad's sayings, his stories, things I know about his life, the impact he had on mine and others around me, and just kind of collection of chapters that just dealing with these different things as they come to mind. I plan to continue to come on every week, usually Fridays, and just read the latest chapter, talk about it, where it came from, and other thoughts that came to mind after writing it. It's a first time project for me to write a book, and it's been a fun time, a challenge, and a journey to just collect the right sayings, the right stories, put them into a context that's usable. My idea behind it now is kind of germinated, and it's come to the idea it'll be something like a devotional where you can look. Their chapters are short the way they're written now, and just and they're kind of by so they're by life challenges, life opportunities, um, inspirations, and ways you can just go and get a couple of pages of reframing, a couple of pages of perspective, or you can read it straight through as a story. But right now, I'm just collecting the sayings and the stories and writing the short chapters, and then eventually, sooner rather than later, I'm going to have to get some editorial help and really turn this thing into a finished product. But right now, working through it, I'm at kind of the raw material phase of the project, and it's been great. And when you come on here and give me some feedback, it's super helpful. And I hope that you continue to like and share the page, and or the channel, I should say, and invite others to like it as well. Today, I was thinking a lot about the marriage my mom and dad had. Um, it was a wonderful thing. I've said many times everything I know about a romantic marriage, uh, a dynamic marriage, I learned from watching my parents in action. Sometimes it was like living in a rom com. Um, they were devoted to one another. They adored one another. They really did like to spend time. They liked being each other's company. They were each other's biggest fan. They were a great team. Um, they liked to have fun. They liked to entertain. They liked a lot of the same things. There was a compatibility factor there that was hard to miss. And but just the sense that when the way my dad looked at my mom and the way my mom looked at my dad left never left, always made it clear there was never a doubt how they felt about one another. Another good way to check is when one of them wasn't around, how the other one spoke about him. Dad didn't talk badly about mom when she wasn't around. She didn't talk bad about him when he wasn't around. They didn't run each other down to their friends or other people. They didn't do that whole, you know, um, ball and chain kind of thing or anything like that. They just held each other in the highest regard, and and like I said, they were each other's biggest cheerleaders. So it was really great to watch and see. And there were some things they would do that I think really come in handy that can be replicated. I think any marriage could incorporate these ideas and make it better. So the chapter I'm going to read today, it's about 2 pages, like all the rest of them have been. It's called "Always Be Selling," and it'll make more sense once I read it and explain where that came from. But that was an expression my dad had for the secret to having a good marriage. Always be selling. So, Bear, I hope you enjoy this chapter. I hope you get some things out of it. I would love your feedback. And I'm going to read this now. This is a chapter called Always Be Selling. Relationship advice is a big business and a hobby everyone seems to have. There are seminars, books, podcasts, advice columns, many other platforms for telling people how to enjoy happy, healthy relationships with their partner. It makes sense. This intimate relationship is the foundational one in any society, and it does make life more enjoyable and meaningful when we feel connected in this way. I learned so much about what a happy marriage can be from observing my mom and dad relate to one another. They enjoyed one another's company. They did not bicker with or pick on each other. When the other one wasn't around, they still spoke highly of their partner. My mom loved to look her best with my dad. She made our house a home, entertaining groups of people, large or small, with grace. She stuck up for Dad if any of us kids ever complained. She played a key role in mentoring the other spouses in my dad's career space. She was crazy about Dad. She loved him and admired him. It was evident just in the way she looked at him. My dad knew how fortunate he was to have another loving marriage. His first wife, Bonnie, died unexpectedly at a fairly young age. He was living the life of a bachelor in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and he was in his mid-40s. Fortunately for him, a friend took an interest in Dad's hopes for another woman to love, and he arranged a blind date for Dad with Andrea Quayle Barker. She had recently divorced an unfaithful husband after a 20-year marriage. She had moved back to her parents' home with her daughter, Leslie. Her son, Rick, stayed with his father. It was a devastating time for Mom. Dad got to the house while Mom was still getting ready. As she came into the living room area, she heard her dad laughing. She was surprised. Her dad did possess a great sense of humor, but it wasn't easy for people to connect with him. She told us that she knew then that Bird Ray had special qualities because he had put her dad at ease that quickly. They enjoyed their date and fell in love pretty quickly. They married within the year. She did not have many friends of her own at this time, but Dad had more than enough for both of them. Her winning personality and poise won over most, if not all, of the friends and colleagues of my dad's. Dad's business, Gray Mobile Homes, was selling lots of homes at the time, and Mom did not have to get a job outside the house. Mobile homes business that had served Dad well for the mobile home that had served Dad well for his bachelor days wasn't a long-term solution for his new circumstances. The surprise of my being born forced the issue. He had to find a bigger place. That is how he ended up in Muskegon again. He liked living around the water and he knew a lot of people there. He found us a house and we moved. I was 2 years old at the time. We had great neighbors, some who became lifelong friends. My mom found her circle and they were a formidable group of women. Dad's business continued to thrive and expand. He did a couple of things that made our life richer for all of us. He had an in-ground pool installed in the backyard. He wanted our house to be the place people young and old would want to come visit. And he made sure that Mom and he would take trips together to stay connected. He loved to call her and say he'd booked a room in Chicago for the weekend or some other fun place, and he would swoop home and drive off with her. It was important to him to let her know that she was his priority. He found capable caregivers to watch over my sister Leslie, me, and later my brother Chuck while they had their getaways. If he did travel solo for a business trip, he never came home empty-handed. He had an eye for fashion, and he enjoyed buying outfits for Mom, and she loved to wear them. They were quite a couple. They knew how to entertain, make anything seem fun, dressed well, loved to travel. They enjoyed good food. They were great mentors to the people in their circles. I asked Dad how they managed to build such a strong marriage. It had lasted 36 wonderful years, ended only by Mom's untimely death from cancer in 1998. He relied on a metaphor we could both relate to. He said that he was always selling to her. And as long as she was always selling to him, then both of them would be happy. I asked him what he meant by that. He said that when you're trying to sell somebody something, you have to listen well and figure out what they like, want, and need. You have to be creative in the way you provide those things for the other person. They have to have a reason to believe that you care. You need to deliver even more value than you promised. You want to look your best when you have a sales call. In short, he said that as long as he is always thinking about what would make Mom happy and Mom was always thinking about what would make him happy, then they would have a great relationship. What Dad described and demonstrated was the idea of putting the other person first and trusting them to do the same. When you love somebody so much that their happiness is what makes you happy, you don't have to spend any time worrying about getting yours. This dynamic enhanced their compatibility so much. They grew to like so many of the same things. They built so many wonderful memories by looking to make each experience as good as it could be for the other person. And they did much the same for us kids as well. Dad wanted us to enjoy our time together. He wanted to see us get charged up about something he showed us. I think of it as one of his superpowers. the ability to understand what would make the other person happy or better in some way, and then doing what he could to bring it into reality. It motivated him as much as anything did. In a marriage, that makes for a deep, strong bond. Nothing tears down a happy marriage quicker than selfishness and score settling. So many relationships end with the remark, I wasn't getting my needs met. There were some seasons where mom didn't get all her wants met, but she never felt like she didn't have all that she needed with dad. And he felt the same way about her. I don't know how he arrived at this level of wisdom for marriage. According to him, one of the greatest gifts he got from his maker was finding sobriety early enough in life to make amends to Bonnie for the early years of their marriage. I know that he was married 3 times, and each one proved to be wonderful and rich. He really excelled in a marriage relationship because he knew that love was feelings in action. He aligned his actions and words with love, so he acted in loving ways. He liked his wives, too. He did not complain about spending time with mom or us. We traveled as much as we did as kids because they really liked having us around. He's a romantic at heart. He loved my mom and later his third wife, Joyce, gifts. He liked to wine and dine them, travel with them. He made his living selling things to people, but he also made his living more fulfilling by selling himself to his wife. I hope that helps. If you're in a marriage, I hope it helps. I mean, there's so much in the world today tells us you got to get your own, you got to look out for yourself, you got to make sure your needs are met. Don't settle, don't put up with anything from anybody and all of this. And there's some value to that. You have to have a high degree of self-respect to love somebody selflessly. I think that when you realize that the other person isn't there to serve you in the sense that to make you happy, they're there to make you better, and you're there to make them better. But man, when you can make their wants and needs your priority, knowing and trusting them to do the same for you, then a marriage can really excel. It can get really healthy because the Apostle Paul, for example, talks a lot about this, where love and honor, love and respect has to go both ways. There isn't, and then when he talks about love in general in the letter to the Corinthians, he talks about things like you're not a keeper of wrongs. In other words, you don't keep score. You do things for the other people because you want to. My dad loved to see my mom open a surprise gift and just get thrilled. He loved to do that. He loved to take her, call her up and say, hey, like I said in the story, we're going to go to Chicago this weekend, pack a bag. And by the time he got home from the office, she was ready to go. He loved to do something. It wasn't every week, but it was often enough. Made a lot of memories. Sometimes he'd do that with us kids too. He liked to kind of keep us off balance a little bit, but not in a bad way, but in a way that when you're around him, anything could happen. And it would most likely be cool. He just liked to make people happy in a meaningful way. He liked to spend time with them. I really admired how the two of them talked about one another and how they talked to one another. A lot of respect, a lot of regard, senses of humor was a big help. They could laugh their way through a lot of problems. They had great perspective. I know some of this came from age and maturity. They were both, like I said, dad was in his mid 40s. Mom was just coming up on 40 when they met. So, she was in her mid 30s, but they had some advantages of having lived through a lot of things already. And so when they got together, they were ready. They were already pretty well formed. My mom needed a lot of retrofitting, though, a lot of help with her self-esteem. That divorce and the years leading up to it took a lot out of her. It took her a long time to kind of get her mojo back. And my dad was accelerated all of that. By the time they got together and she'd spent some time around him and found out what it was like to be the center of attention of a man who loved her unconditionally and a guy that really wanted to put her on a pedestal and make her feel loved and valued. It didn't take long to kind of reignite all that self-esteem and that regard. And it gave her that confidence to be that kind of person for the people around her. He kind of rescued her from that. And he made it a point of doing it. And I admired that a lot. And she knew that he needed an audience. he liked to not show off, but well, we all like to be the hero of our own movie, right? And he just liked to do things that scored. He liked to make things happen that were ahead, and like to know that it was. And she gave him that. She didn't make it. She didn't lie. If it wasn't cool, she didn't pretend that it was. But if it was, she made her gratitude. She made her regard for what he was trying to do well known. She respected what he was doing. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. I remember one time Kathy and I were talking to friends of my parents. They were in town visiting, and so were we. We'd all met at their house down in Indiana, and we were talking to Gloria Senecal, good friends of my parents, her and her husband Wayne, and Kathy and I were fairly early on in our relationship, and we were talking about how relationships work. And Gloria's argument was it's respect. You can get through a lot together as a couple as long as there's mutual respect. Her position was, if you lose respect for your spouse, the marriage is in a lot of trouble. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. And I know that watching my parents navigate life together, it was soaked in respect. And I think that's something to keep in mind. There's so much selfishness in the world today. It's promoted, it's glamorized, it's used as advertising, and I think it's toxic for a marriage. It's toxic for parenting. It's toxic for being a kid, and we have to guard our hearts and minds against it. It's so much more fun to be in a relationship where you spend your waking moments thinking about, what could I do to make the other person happy? What would be fun to do? What would be cool? And you have some confidence and the belief that the other person is doing a lot of the same thing. Always be selling. I hope this helps. If you're in a marriage, I hope it helps make it better. Or if it's struggling, I definitely hope it makes it feel better. And if you're not married yet, these are some things to look for. Love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your insights on what I read today, and or anything else I've said on here today. And now go out and enjoy the rest of this 4th of July weekend. Be safe out there. Give thanks for liberty and freedom and all that good stuff. And I will see you again next week with another chapter as we continue to work through $5 in the world. That's it for today. Bye for now.